talk about it seems like there is alternately harmony and tension states in our religious beliefs and expectations as it relates to mental health, because there are times where people will say, well, that's a spiritual problem, that's a religious problem. So it sort of becomes separate. But then there's times where it's like, well, my faith informs my mental health. And then there's times where they're battling, like, what's the solution here? And there's different people trying to lay claim to the same range and say, this is your solution. No, this is your solution. So you all both have mentioned faith at times as that intersection. How does faith intersect maybe less personally and more collectively in the expectations we put on ourselves? And that, now we're talking about gender, we're talking about generation, and then we're talking about faith as alternately a tension or harmony state, depending on the moment or who's talking to me.
Absolutely. So in the Hispanic community, and you see it here in Tulsa, where the priest, the Catholic community, the priest is basically the family therapist. When I was doing Hispanic outreach for the Tulsa Police Department, I knew the quickest way to build relationships for me was to go through the churches. And as I built relationships with the pastors in these churches, I saw it on how many men and women, families that were going to their priest to not just to deal with spiritual questions, but to deal with family therapy questions, because they trusted that individual. It was a sanctuary, as we all know it so well. So these priests from all over the world, but here in Tulsa that could speak two languages, were now intervening into these families to deal with whatever generational issue that they've been dealing with, or raising an American child. So I saw it that they needed not only kind of like a police officer where they had some training on the mental health side, but they weren't therapists. That's not what they were doing. Well, on the spiritual side, you saw Spanish-speaking priests now really needing to lean in on psychology and therapy, because they were indirectly becoming families' go-to to deal with their stuff. Because they are taught that it's a safe space, it's a sanctuary, and oh, by the way, nobody's going to talk about your stuff because it's protected. Because as a family, we can come as the nucleus and deal with it, but we ain't going to talk about it the minute we leave this room, and we know that the priest ain't going to talk about it either.
Can I switch to schools for a second? Because I'm hearing him talking about the pressure on priests and clergy, and I'm thinking, I've seen so many statistics about the pressure that teachers can feel to be, they're the most trusted person in someone's life, and they might be the first one to know or detect something. And when I'm thinking about young men and the expectations on them, talk to me about the schools and the pressure within the schools, as well as how the educators are part of that continuum when it comes to changing the scripts.
I know our teachers have really, this year alone, our teachers have really been struggling with the behaviors and different things in the classroom. But I think it goes back to, services that can be provided there, training or professional development for teachers. But the biggest thing is that the teachers are doing more of is building those trusts with those students. There was a situation in one of our schools that dealt with an African-American kid, and the teacher was Caucasian. And so just based upon the training that she had, that she received, that she was able to, hey, I may not be the same color as you, but I understand what you're going through based upon the training. You see teachers, like the principal from McLean was actually in his community, hey, I'm here for you. What do you need? You go to my school, you're my kids. Like I'm here for you. So just continue to build that trust, and just continue the education. I think that's been the biggest thing. But yeah, our kids are really struggling, and just our teachers being able to understand and try to relate to the struggles that they're going through in the schools.
I worry somewhat, and I know we're probably straying a little bit from the men's mental health angle, but I do worry that, COVID started a exodus of teachers and educators because it's just too much. Everybody's mad at them. Everybody's expecting them to solve everything. The kids are overwhelmed. And I feel like it became a focal point. And one of the things I sort of worry about is, are we ever going to be able to stabilize the amount of supports that teachers need? And are people going to keep entering the field? Are we in some sort of crisis point already with the pressure on teachers and educators as it relates to mental health and supporting?
I think so for sure. Like you said, COVID kind of ramped that up because, they were trying to teach kids through a computer screen. And so I think, yes, for sure, we are in a crisis with our teachers because there's outside pressure, whether it's from
So politicized too.
yes, political standpoints. Like they want to do what's best for their kids, but they have to, oh, well, I have to teach you about standardized testing, even though you don't know how to read, but I still have to pass you. Or we're going to have to, whatever's happening in Oklahoma, we may change the curriculum or what we have to teach in the classroom. So they have all these outside pressures on top of they're not compensated enough. So they have to worry about their own stress going outside. Like if you're a single parent as a teacher and you're getting paid $50,000 a year, like you're dealing with that stress on top of dealing with, the trauma that these kids are bringing to school.
That's what I was going to say. They know what those kids are going through. They see it on their face and they hear the stories.
Yes, because these kids are already coming in with circumstances like I didn't even get to have breakfast, or I'm wearing the same outfit every single day, or I saw my dad do something to my mom, or my dad is whatever. All these things that these kids are dealing with, the teachers are taking that on as well. So they're like, you're not paying me enough. You're not giving me the support I need in the classroom. You're not giving me the training and education to kind of deal with these issues. So why I can go work somewhere else.
And if they leave the field, they're never coming back.
They're never coming back, in my opinion.
Yeah. For me, having a third grade teacher who spotted food insecurity, Mrs. Bogard, identifying that I wasn't eating and there was something going on at home without trying to solve all the issues that were going on at home, but she realized this kid needs some food.
Wow.
Fifth grade teacher who saw
that was one of your teachers?
That was one of my teachers, Mrs. Bogard. And then my fifth grade teacher, and I always say these teachers out loud because I want their existence to continue to go on, even though they've passed on. But Mrs. Odell, who bought me books that she saw the struggles in my reading because of, again, not having any help at home. But this is that stress that kids even now carry into the classroom. And from a bilingual, bicultural perspective, you have educators that are doing the best they can today. And now you're asking educators in the classroom to deal with not only people, the unresolved issues, but then also have a language barrier on top of that, which just adds to that extra stress. And I mean, you have to give it to educators, and God bless them, because every single day, and this is why they do what they do, but they also become ad hoc social workers and looking for ways to find resources for these kids to survive just within their own existence in this country, in the state, and in their own families.
Another misconception, I think, I'm just throwing this out there, is that, okay, so we have these issues, but we're not supposed to seek therapy. Men are not supposed to see a therapist or a counselor. No, that's not a male thing to do. And I'm curious, especially with you two, if you have seen this in your practice, like men coming in or men not coming in, or women coming in and saying, yeah, I'm here, but my husband, he says, this is not for men. I'm curious about, if this is still happening or if this is even a thing. Maybe I'm just making it up here.
I would say on two fronts. On the Hispanic side, seeking therapy is kind of one of those, we don't do.
Yeah.
Because and then also on the public safety side, the police side, you saw that as well,
yes,
something we don't do. Because both cultures, the police culture, the Hispanic culture, at least from the male perspective, is that somehow we have failed in our manhood. And the fact that I need to go and speak to somebody about some unresolved issues, either from my childhood or just some of the things that I've seen trauma-wise within my career or within my culture, the Hispanic culture, that goes unresolved. But yet it is taboo to look at it because somehow you become very vulnerable in saying, I'm going to go talk to a stranger when I can't even talk to my own family or my colleagues.
Yeah.
And then what you end up finding is I've seen police officers who have taken their own lives, and we see it both from the military standpoint, you see it on the police standpoint, that they just decided that this is their way to deal with it by ending it. In the Hispanic community, it is, again, that unresolved trauma. And even though maybe their children or maybe their grandchildren tell them, you need to go speak to a therapist. I know I tried that with my own mother. We took her to a therapist. But it never took. You could tell. I mean, it was she was dealing with the best that she could with it. I will tell you the biggest part of that, the greatest takeaway is that I got to sit through that and just hear what she dealt with from a trauma, because it was something that helped me figure out why. It's one of the reasons I studied psychology in undergrad, because I wanted to figure out why my family's so screwed up.
We all of us entered the field. We went to fix our own family and then said, well, this is going to take longer than I thought.
Exactly. But it spoke to just helping me better deal with my trauma from that, and then also that I can help with my children going forward.
See, I think in mental health, I think we have participated in the problem and maybe even made it worse at times, because there's this notion. I know people, when I was going to school for psychology, I know people that left the field or thought about leaving the field because they were afraid they were getting calloused. Oh, I'm hearing the stories over and over. And I'm like, here's the thing. If I have to dig holes all day, my skin is going to get tougher so that I have a resistance. And if every day my job in law enforcement is around trauma, I do have to build up a toughness to this, because I can't let it touch me and hurt me the same way over and over and over again. And if I'm a therapist, it's either I can be in the field for only a few years, or I have to get to the point in time that these stories don't touch me the same way they did 5 years ago. And yet, as a psychologist, I felt pressure to stay so sensitive that I was just as upset by these traumatic stories in year 5 as I was in year 1. How can that be? And I feel like we've sort of let down society in mental health with this notion that if you go to therapy, it's to get sensitive, it's to soften your skin, it's to sort of get where you're back to being touched by all that. And like, look, I think it's a better idea to think of it like restoring range of motion to an injured knee.
Yes.
You do therapy by reworking it so you have that range of motion. But if I'm in law enforcement, I have to restore a range of motion to either say, A, I can't do this anymore, I'm too traumatized, or B, I've restored an ability to take on this stuff that now is built up on me. And so I don't know if that's making sense, but I just feel like mental health itself, we've done wrong by giving people the impression that we're just here to keep you sensitive and soft.
Talk about your feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.